Signings of the Declaration of Independence. If you've ever been to Williamsburg, Brooklyn, you'll see there a number of streets there that some of the names actually came from the Declaration of Independence. People who signed. I grew up not too far from there, and I'm familiar with those streets, and I never really paid attention until recently. I realized that. I looked at the Declaration of Independence, and it's like, wow, these names are familiar. So let's see here. The first thing I'm going to start with is, let's see, Haywood. Thomas Haywood. Thomas Haywood. That's a street in Williamsburg. Let's see. Right there. Haywood. Yeah. 7/28/1746. I guess that's his birth date. Hughes. That's another street in Williamsburg. Joseph Hughes. Benjamin Harrison. That's a street there too. Harrison. Well, we know about John Hancock, but there's no Hancock Street in Williamsburg that I'm familiar with. Let's see, Jerry. There's a Jerry Street in Williamsburg. There's a Franklin. I'm not sure if it named after Benjamin Franklin, but there is a Franklin there. There's a Franklin Avenue and there's a Franklin Street. If you go all the way down Kent Avenue, you run into Franklin Street. George Clymer. There's a Clymer Street. That's for sure. Clymer Street. Let's see. There's Carroll, but Carroll isn't in Williamsburg. It's named after the name Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn. Got that name from Carroll. There's Bartlett Street, Hosea Bartlett. There's a Bartlett Street in Williamsburg. Runs right into Broadway in Williamsburg. Let's go down a little more. Cover Hughes, Haywood, Hooper. There's a Hooper Street also. Let's see. Lee. Now there is a Lee. There are two Lees here. Francis Lightfoot Lee and Richard Henry Lee. There's a Lee Avenue that runs right through Williamsburg, and the name, it changes to Nostrand Avenue right when you get to Flushing Avenue. Francis Lewis, there's Francis Lewis Boulevard, that's in Queens. Name right here. Philip Livingston. We don't have a Livingston in Williamsburg, but there's a Livingston Street downtown Brooklyn, named after Livingston. From what I understand, Philip Livingston was born in Brooklyn. It's listed as Albany, New York here, but he was from Brooklyn. Lynch. Thomas Lynch. I believe there's a Lynch also in Williamsburg. Okay, let's see. Morris. No, I don't recall a Morris. Norton, Nelson, Parker, Payne, Robert Payne, Penn, Reed, Rodney. Yep, I used to work in Rodney Street for a management building. Rodney Street. It runs right alongside where the Brooklyn Queens Expressway is, right there. You see Rodney Street. So Cesar Rodney, that's another person who signed that. And there's George Ross. There's a Ross Street. Right there, it runs off White Avenue into Kent Avenue. Rush, I don't recall Rush. Rutledge, yep. There's a Rutledge Street there. No Sherman, no Stone. Taylor, there's a George Taylor. Now, there's a Taylor White, like in the Taylor White projects. So there's a George Taylor and George White. Those two names signed the Declaration of Independence. And White Avenue is spelled W-Y-T-H-E. And Taylor Street. So there it is right here. George Taylor and George White right there from Virginia. Yeah. So there are the Taylor White projects, and there's White Avenue, and there's Taylor Street. Walcott. I think there might be a Walcott. I don't remember exactly where. There is a Wilson. There's a Wilson Avenue, Wilson Street, not too far from Taylor Street and Rush Street, named after Sir James Wilson. Wilson Street. Yeah. So this is interesting that you have all these different people, and of course you have people like Samuel Adams. that bear, the name of the bear. Well, he signed the Declaration of Independence too, Samuel Adams, but he's not there. He's not included in Williamsburg, in the streets of Williamsburg. We have Adams Street in Brooklyn that runs right into the Brooklyn Bridge. So of course, Adams Street, let's see, that name would be, I think that would be from the other Adams, not Samuel Adams. Yeah. That's one of those famous names. Adams. Let's see here. John Adams. I think that's where that name comes from. John Adams. The Adams Street in Brooklyn. So we have quite a number of streets here. I think there's a Clark Street too, and there's a train station there also. So it's quite a number of streets. So you look at Livingston Street. So he actually signed the Declaration of Independence. Interesting. In Brooklyn, there's a Hoyt Street, H-O-Y-T. He was a businessman. He goes back to He goes back to the 19th century. And Nevins. You might have heard of Nevins. That's a train stop, train station stop. Hoyt Street and Nevin Street and the IRT line. Those two. So Nevins, Russell Nevins, supposedly was he worked in the stock exchange, and one time he was the head of the stock exchange, Russell Nevins. So that's where they got that name from, Nevin Street. And apparently he was involved in, let's see, in the formation of Borum Hill. Borum Hill. That's where I used to go to school years ago. When you cross Atlantic Avenue by 4th Avenue, down that area, that's Borum Hill. And then Hoyt. Hoyt Street is a little way up, like Hoyt Schermerhorn, and so forth. And then there's Smith Street. Smith Street was the name of the last mayor of Brooklyn, because Brooklyn used to be its own city until it joined in, I believe, 1898. The 1st of January 1898. It joined New York City. But so the last mayor of Brooklyn was Samuel Smith, and that's where they got the name Smith Street from. Smith Street that crosses Livingston Street, downtown Brooklyn, and it goes all the way down. It goes all the way down. What's that? Cobble Hill? Yeah, Cobble Hill. All the way down there toward Red Hawk. Smith Street. Yeah, all the way down there. If you keep walking down there, you're gonna end up in Cobble Hill. So there's a little history there for you. All these different names. Yeah, Wilson, James Wilson. Yeah, there is a Wilson. So that's interesting. So these are all named after men. None of these are named after women. Because women didn't play an important role in those days. If they did, they were not recognized. Unfortunately, that's how life was in those days. Sadly, but that's how it was.